2026 World Cup roster predictions, finally getting around to doing this video. I am super excited. These are always my favorite types of videos to do. It's kind of difficult with all the moving pieces in the pool, kind of moving up and down the depth charts, but nonetheless, really looking forward to this video. A lot kind of went into it, and I'm going to be choosing 26 players instead of 23. But before I get into the video, I have a pretty big channel announcement. This is probably going to be the last video on the YouTube channel. I'm moving to college next week, and I'm not expecting to have the same amount of time and opportunities to record these videos, and a lot goes into it, so I just don't know if I should be putting my time into that. But we'll see. There is a possibility I do have the time and I am able to make the video, so fingers crossed, but I just want to give you guys a heads up. It's just probably not going to happen. So for you guys that have stuck around with me for 3 years, I really appreciate you guys. This channel has been truly incredible, and I've really enjoyed doing these videos. So thank you guys so much to each one of you that has watched one of my videos. But anyway, let's get straight into the video. Make sure to follow those socials in the next slide. But yeah, let's get straight into that 26-man roster. Alright, so starting off in goal, I have Matt Turner, Gaga Sanina, and Ethan Horvath. I think Matt Turner by 2026 is going to be the starting keeper. I still think that's a pretty straightforward decision. I think Gaga, he will make those improvements, but I expect him to kind of be in and out on loan with Chelsea throughout the next couple of seasons. I like his overall game. I just don't know if 3 years is enough time for him to surpass Matt Turner. And I have Ethan Horvath as my number 3. I just think he's going to be consistent, playing in the championship, and still be a guy we can rely on if called upon. I think Sean Johnson's going to be out of the picture. Chris Brady's another player to watch, young goalkeeper for the Chicago Fire, but I don't know if he's going to break in 3 years. But nonetheless, I'm going to put pretty solid money that these are my 3 goalkeepers, and Matt Turner is still the starter. Alright, and as far as outside backs go, I have Anthony Robinson and Caleb Wiley as my left backs, with Sergio Dest and Joe Scally as my right backs. Anthony Robinson has proven that he is a Premier League starter every single week, consistent in and out. Caleb Wiley, he's playing for Atlanta United right now, isn't really a first-team player for us at the moment, but this kid has an insane amount of upside. Really good on the ball, has insane athleticism, physically is dominant for his age. A great attacking fullback as well. This kid has it all for me to be a really good player. In my opinion, has a higher ceiling than Jedi Robinson. I don't think he'll pass him in the next 3 years, but he will definitely be on this roster if I had to bet on it. So Sergio Dest, I know he's kind of in and out with bad things going on for him at Barcelona, but he's still really talented. We saw in the Nations League what he can still do. I'm still pretty high on this kid. He's going to figure it out, and he's going to turn it around by 2026. Trust me on this. And Joe Scally for the last 2 seasons has been a consistent starter in the Bundesliga. Very good, a solid defender, solid going forward, just really consistent. So we have 2 really good right backs that are top 5 league caliber, Anthony Robinson as well as a top 5 league player, and Caleb Wiley will be there sooner than later. This kid is insanely talented. It was kind of tough to leave out Brian Reynolds because I still think Brian Reynolds has a lot of upside, but these are the 4 outside backs that I would go with on my 26-man roster. Alright, moving on to center backs, I have Chris Richards as my number 1. In my opinion, is the best center back in CONCACAF. I mean, this guy is so well-rounded, so dominant as we saw in the Nations League. Was gutted he missed in 2022 in the World Cup, but he's going to be there in 2026 and is going to be a starter. The other 4 for me, no particular order, but I have Miles Robinson, Mark McKenzie, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Jalen Neal. I don't expect Tim Ring to be there, unfortunately. 3 years is a long time for a 37-year-old, so we'll see, but I just don't expect him to be there. Miles Robinson is going to be in Europe after this season in MLS, and I think, in my opinion, is underrated. Not the best with the ball at his feet, but still can make up with it athletically, and he's still decent on the ball, and I think if he can find a good move in Europe, he will be successful. Mark McKenzie, as he's shown, has been consistent in Belgium for the past couple seasons now, and if he does have a good season in Belgium, I expect him to make a move. Hasn't had the same amount of opportunities with the national team over the past couple years, but I expect him to be getting more as his 2026 cycle continues to ramp up, potentially in the Copa America, but I actually think Mark McKenzie is underrated by a large portion of the fan base as well. Cameron Carter-Vickers for me, it's between him and Robinson right now for my number 2. I think I would give it to Cameron Carter-Vickers if Tim Ring wasn't going to be there in 2026. He's left-footed, dominant physically, pretty good in the air, is okay on the ball. I expect to be moving from Celtic at some point by 2026 as well, but he's still very good and underrated by a large portion of the fan base as well. The last spot for me was between Josh Weiner or Jalen Neal, but I gave it to Jalen Neal because in 3 years' time, I just think Jalen Neal has shown he can do more at a higher level. As we saw in the Gold Cup, good on the ball, good in the air. I mean, this guy, for a 19-year-old to be that composed, for me, just you don't really find that too often. He's going to be moving abroad probably this offseason as well, so I would give it to Jalen Neal, but keep an eye on Josh Weiner. So these would be my 5 center backs for 2026. And if I had to choose, it would probably be Chris Richards and Cameron Carter-Vickers as my center back pairing, but it's really close between Cameron Carter-Vickers and Miles Robinson for that number 2 spot. Alright, so moving on to midfield, and this is the first batch of midfielders that I have, and I don't know if I really should have to explain these four, but I got Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Gio Reyna. Now between Adams, McKennie, Musa, I'm not really going to talk about who starts right now. We're still 3 years out. We saw in the Nations League that McKennie and Musa, they can play together in a pivot, but I think against better teams, you might need Tyler Adams to step in there. But I think all three of these guys will see pretty good development from them in the next 3 years playing for pretty big clubs in Europe. And Musa for me might be one of the biggest players for us, if not probably top 3 of our best players by 2026. I think this kid is truly incredible. He has dominated so many games for us. And Gio Reyna should be the starting 10 by 2026. It is insane to think he's only going to be 23 by the time that first 2026 World Cup game rolls around. And there's a pretty good possibility that he's our best player when that World Cup rolls around in 2026. So, I mean, these 4 players are really the heart of this team. They are all truly incredible, and they will be here on this roster if healthy, no debates. Alright, and on to batch 2 with midfielders. Sorry, I know the lighting's a little different. My power just went out, so I had to reset a few things, and of course the sun comes out. But yeah, so on to batch 2 midfield, I have Taylor Booth, Jack McGlynn, and Obed Vargas. These are 3 midfielders I think I'm going to go with. Taylor Booth, for me, is pushing for a starting spot or to be one of the first players off the bench for 2026. He's going to be out of the Netherlands by some point in 2026. Good on the ball, has incredible combination play, has a great cross. I just think this kid is very underrated and technically proficient, which is very, very good in my opinion. Is super underrated by most of the fan base. I have Jack McGlynn and Obed Vargas as my last 2, and these 2 are kind of gambles. I don't really know if I have 100% faith they will be there, but I went with them. I think Jack McGlynn is a unique player, left-footed, has insane vision, insane IQ, and an insane reading of the game for his age. We just don't have many players in the pool, if not any, with his vision, IQ, that are left-footed. I think he's going to go big. I've seen lots of improvements with him defensively and his reading of the game over the past couple years, so he can compete at a high level if he has to. He's going to be in Europe by next year probably. So please keep an eye on Jack McGlynn. I think a lot of the fan base underrates him as a whole, and is for me one of our most exciting prospects. The last one I have Obed Vargas. Now he can play for Mexico, so we'll see if he does commit to us. But can play as a 6 or an 8. At 16 and 17, can show he can play professionally and play well professionally. Good defensively, good progression the ball forward. I just think a really well-rounded midfielder we could have. It is close. I did think of maybe putting Johnny over him, but I'm going to go with the 3 years. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Obed Vargas. But if Vargas does opt for Mexico, keep an eye on Johnny, or even Malik Tillman if either Jack McGlynn doesn't pan out either. I think Tillman could play as a 10 or even as a winger. But these would be the 7 midfielders that I would go with in the last year would be Booth, McGlynn, and Vargas. Alright, and on to wingers, I have Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Kevin Paredes, and Conrad De La Fuente. So the first 2 are pretty self-explanatory. You got Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah. Pulisic is going to be one of the leaders of this team, one of the best players, if not the best players, and going to be one of our main focal points in the attacking. He will be pretty big for us through the coming cycles. We'll see how many goals he does have by 2026. But keep an eye on him. I expect him to do really well in Europe after moving away from Chelsea. So hopefully this AC Milan move works out pretty well, and he can be hitting the potential Dahl thought he was going to be moving into 2026. Tim Weah only continues to get better. He's now at Juventus, and I've seen a lot of improvements for this game for the last 2 years. And he is only going to get better. I fully expect him to be a starter on the right wing by 2026. He's a very good player, massively underrated. The pace and the technical ability, you just don't find a combination of many players like that with this combination of pace and technical ability. Wonderful player. Kevin Paredes, I'm pretty sure he's going to be there. Can play as a left or a right wing. Can even play wing back or left back. But I'm going to put him here as a winger. Very direct. I think very, very shifty. He can take players on 1v1. Has a pretty good cross as well. He's a very technical player. Not the quickest, but he is a very good player. So keep an eye on him as well. He's probably going to be getting good minutes for Wolfsburg when he gets back from injury. Massive talent, in my opinion. One of our best U20s. The last one, this one is probably the biggest gamble. But I went with Conrad De La Fuente. I still think this kid has it all. I mean, he's got the pace. He's got the 1v1 ability. Has got that shoulder drop. I mean, this kid is incredibly talented. We've seen some glimpses. He showed it in League One for a couple months, and then he got injured and just never really got back to his form that he once was in. But he's now back in Spanish in the 2nd division, which is a pretty low division, but 3 years is plenty of enough time for him to be able to turn his career around because the talent is there with this kid, I promise you. So I'm gonna go with Conrad De La Fuente now. If it doesn't work out, you obviously have Malik Tillman, a guy who can play. Taylor Booth can also play wing as well. I would also consider putting Paxton Aronson because I think Paxton Aronson is going to surpass Brennan in the next 3 years. I think he is that good. But for now, I'm going to go with Pulisic, Tim Weah, Kevin Paredes, and Conrad De La Fuente. All right, and lastly, onto our strikers, we have Josh Sargent, Forlaren Balogun, and Ricardo Pepi. So these are in no particular order, but with the 26-man roster, I think I'm going to go with Josh Sargent as my last guy. I think Balogun's going to be the number 1 and Pepe the number 2. For me, Josh Sargent in the championship has been very dominant. I mean, this best hold-up striker we have in the pool, good in the air, good at bringing others into the game. I think he's pretty good, massively underrated. And he probably will be back in the top of the league by the end of next season. I just think a lot of the fan base underrates him as a whole. Balogun is probably going to be the number 1 going into 2026. I mean, we saw in the Nations League glimpses of how good this guy is. We'll see where he ends up this season, but I think this kid is incredibly talented. He's got the pace, got the off-ball movement, got the finishing ability to put chances away when the game is tight. I mean, this kid, incredible recruitment for U.S. soccer. He's going to be big for us for years to come. And Ricardo Pepi is another great player. I'm curious what he's going to do with PSV this season, but I've seen lots of improvements with his game since going to Europe. Off-ball movement is very good. Hold-up play has gotten better, and just has an insane knack for scoring goals you just can't really teach. So all 3 of these guys are pretty good, but I really want to keep an eye on Balogun moving into 2026. So we'll see what the striker pool looks like, but I'm pretty sure it's going to remain these 3 for the next 3 years. So with that roster, if I do pick a starting 11 for the first World Cup game, this is what I would go with. So obviously I have Matt Turner in goal, should still be our number 1 by then. My center back pairing, I have Chris Richards and Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think our best guy to play on the left is Chris Richards, and our best center back, Cameron Carter-Vickers, goes on the right. I think he barely beats out Miles Robinson. As my left back, I'm going to go with Jedi. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Wiley does end up taking that spot, but 3 years isn't a huge amount of time, so I'm going to remain with Anthony Robinson. I still expect to be a consistent starter in the Premier League. I'm going to go with Serginho Dest over Dos Guy. I just think Serginho Dest is a more talented player, better going forward. I think he will figure out his club situation. My midfield, again, like I said earlier, it's going to depend on who we play, but I'm going to remain with Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie. We've seen they can hold it down defensively. I just think the way you get more offense, you get better ball progressing with Musa and McKennie on the field. That's what I would stick with, but keep an eye on Tyler Adams as well. He will play a good role in the World Cup as well. And obviously, Gio Reyna at the 10, our most creative player, our lock picker, just a super talented player. Then it's going to slot in there really well. On the left, it has to be Christian Pulisic, no other one, pretty straightforward. Tim Weah on the right, I would keep an eye on Kevin Paredes and Taylor Booth. Both are pretty good players that will come off the bench and will be pushing to be a starter, but I think Tim Weah will still hold it down by 2026. He's just a very good player. And up top, it's got to be Mr. Balogun. Great player, incredible knack for scoring goals. So overall, I'm not going to lie, this is a pretty nice team. I know there's certain aspects where, it could be better, but looking at the last World Cup and where we were a few years ago, I mean, the way this pool is developed, this is a pretty good starting 11. I don't know if it'll win a World Cup, but I say it will compete with a lot of pretty good teams. And considering we're still 3 years out, all of these guys will get better and they will continue to develop. So this is a really solid team in my opinion. It's wonderful to look at. Alright, before I end this video, just kind of visual to look at the entire team, the 26 guys that I picked. In goal, I have Matt Turner, Gago Sanina, Ethan Horvath. My defenders consist of Anthony Robinson, Caleb Wiley, Serginho Dest, Joe Scally, Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, and Jalen Neal. In midfield, we got Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, West, McKennie, Gio Reyna, Taylor Booth, Jack McGlynn, and Obed Vargas. And my forwards are Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Kevin Paredes, Connor De La Fuente, Valerian Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, and Josh Sargent. So overall, a solid 26-man team. I had some problems leaving out Malik Tillman and Paxton Aaronson. I think both those guys will compete, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're there. Now, if it does end up being a 23-man roster, I think 3 cuts will make it pretty straightforward. It would probably be either Jalen Neal or Mark McKenzie. I don't know, one of the two. I would probably drop Obed Vargas and then Josh Sargent as my third striker because we don't need 3 strikers. But a pretty good team and my 26 guys that I would go with. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. With the 26-man roster and we're still 3 years away, there will be a lot of changes. I know this roster, when I look back, I'd be like, what was I doing thinking of this guy? But with all these players, please hit those comments down below and tell me your 26-man roster, what you would change from mine. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. If this does end up being my last video, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This has been a wonderful hobby, and I really appreciate all you guys' support for the work that I put in over the last few years. So if this does end up being the last video for the last time, thank you guys so much for watching, and peace from States. Hopefully I'll see you guys again at some point.